conversation, and I'd like you to get us into it as your opening comment.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Okay then. So there are two main sources of financing or funding. One is equity and the other is debt. And equity in a simple way is when a company sells shares to raise money so that they can inject in their business. And the benefit of finance to a business is that the money doesn't have to be paid with interest, even though the subscribers benefit from the dividends of the business. So an easy and simple way is to raise money through equity. Then for debt, so debt is when a company borrows money to be paid back at a future with interest, and it is known as debt finance. So these are the two sources of raising money. Now, for equity finance, there are various sources of equity finance. You can start from your funds, that is the money you save at a business. You can also approach what we call angels. These are people who have deep pockets, family, friends, in your network that can help you fund your business. We also have venture capital and private equity. These are companies that understand the business of finance, and they come early in your project or in your business to fund you. There's also crowdfunding, which is becoming very popular in Nigeria at the moment. So crowdfunding is where a number of people, like small businesses, come together to lend, to a business idea or to a business. So those are sources of equity. Then for debt, naturally, you have financial institutions and companies who provide loans to people. So you can access these debt providers, which include commercial banks, microfinance banks, even finance houses, and also people that are licensed to provide credit. So those are two key broad areas of raising money, which is debt and equity, and the traditional sources of debt and equity. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So essentially, you've broken it down into equity financing and debt financing. And for a lot of people, that might be big English, but thank you for even breaking that down further. So when you think about raising funds as a business, most times you think about approaching a bank as a first thing, but that's not the only option, clearly. So let's even further break it down. You represent the banking side, so you have ideas, and you said that money is available. So tell us, I have needs for funds. What do I do as I'm coming to you, Mr. Ajere? Because you said there's money and there are businesses that will come to your bank tomorrow. Some will even sleep over right now. So what are the things I need to have ready if I'm coming to knock on the door of your bank to get funding for the value which I'm about to create?
Again, like Martins had mentioned, records matter. Records, they speak to the value of your business. They speak to the potential of your business. They speak to the performance of your business. So records matter. The more sophisticated the source of funding you want to get, the better your record should be. Okay, so if you come to a commercial bank, for instance, and you want to borrow money, it's expected that your record is better than, say, if you go to a microfinance bank. I don't know if you recall when microfinance banks were called community banks.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Now, the idea was to reach a certain category of businesses in the system where the metrics for evaluation is simpler.
You have to break that down.
yes, where the
metrics for evaluation. I love the word. It sounds so good.
Yeah. Okay. Where the conditions,
okay.
the terms,
right?
What is required of you?
I see the requirements.
The requirement.
Okay, thank you.
It's a little more broken down to the kind of business that you run.
Okay.
So if you go to you're a organizer and you go to a microfinance bank, they are able to understand where you're coming from. So they're able to advance you certain amounts of money. They have been able to understand the dynamics of your business.
Right.
In other words, they know how your business runs. So they are able to, create a parameter around which you can operate, and then they can feed you.
So they won't ask for something that is beyond you.
No, they won't ask for something that is beyond you, and they will not give you more than you can take.
Again, what is beyond you?
What is beyond you?
Right.
Yes. So the more sophisticated your business is, the more detailed your record should be. But at the basics is that you need to keep records. Those records matter. For instance, you are a trader in whatever books. Okay, if you have a good record and you've done business to a point where a commercial bank can fund you, if your records are good, you may not have the financial statement, the type that will require from certain categories. But if it's required, an accountant can put it together for you and prepare a financial statement for you that is true and fair of what you really do. But if you don't have records, then even that becomes a problem. It means that you're now limited to what you can do and the kind of money you can appropriate or acquire from the financial system. So records matter.
Absolutely.
They grow in forms, but it matters that you keep this record so that should there be a need, I'm being as rudimentary as I can, because for some people this narrative of financials is required. They do that already. But for those who don't, it's better they start doing so. And what are these records? You need to have records of your revenue, your sales, your purchases, your expenses, your operational costs. So
basically the money that comes in and the money that goes
out. And for what purpose?
Okay.
Because it matters to us to know the purpose for which money is going out.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if I'm buying small engine oil just to mix with the petrol for my gen, I have to write that small engine oil too.
Yes.
The money for Okada.
Because this is the reason why it's important to us. We want to know the money that is coming from the business or going into the business, and the one that you're using for personal things.
I see.
Because the one that are using for personal things do not add up to us for how we can recover money, right? But the one that is put in the business means that it has the potential to reproduce of itself. So it's profitable.
A question just came to mind. For a farmer, I think farming is a bit different. Mm-hmm. I don't know how easy it might be to keep records as a farmer, really, because essentially you plan, sometimes some of them don't do well. I know. So maybe let me ask Mr. Ojegwe this one. As a farmer, because I love farming, I love going to the farm, and I imagine a lot of people listening to us right now are either farmers, potential farmers, and there's a need for funding. We just heard the government declaring a state of emergency on food security. Sure. So it's a very vital part because it's responsible for the majority of our inflation, really, food inflation. So as a farmer right now, how do I keep records? 100 maize, 100 cassava. Do I go?
Well, the truth of the matter is you still have to keep records. You would agree with me that in terms of inputs, in terms of the seedlings you purchase, and in terms of if it's manure or fertilizer, these things are actually purchased in quantities, in kilograms, in metric tons, based on your level of farming, how commercialized it is. Okay, they are categorized. Also, in terms of your output as well, in terms of your harvest, they are also categorized. Some could be categorized in forms of, again, weighted in terms of metric tons or kilograms. Some as well could even be in baskets.
Indeed.
Okay, and some could even be as much as trailer loads.
Or in sacks. There are metrics to measure this.
Exactly. So either way, there are data, or let me not use the word data. You can actually measure them. Okay.
Fantastic. I just wanted to lay bare that everybody, whatever business you're into, you are able to keep records. Again, as I said, some are not. Some they have everything in their head. They are brilliant. They can tell you the sales they made last week, but that doesn't help you, right? You need them to put it on paper. So whatever business you're into, you're listening to us right now, you need to keep records if you want to access funds, even if you want to start. And we'll get to that point too, because for businesses that are starting, some of them, they've not sold anything. So I wonder what you would use to give them funds. We'll get into that definitely. This program is for everyone, whatever level you're at. Make sure you are tuned into this station to get all of the information you need. You're still listening to the Financial Literacy and Public Enlightenment Radio campaign brought to you by the Bankers Committee. If you want to be a part of this conversation, yes, I can imagine a lot of people, they are writing their questions down. You can call us or send us an SMS on these numbers. So I need you to get your pen out or your mobile devices to put them down. 0810 608 1681. That is 0810 608 1681 or 0818 202 5883. I'll take that again. 0818 202 5883. So call us, send us a message. We are here for you. Our goal is simple. We want you to be better as an individual, better as a business, so you're profitable for yourself and for our nation, Nigeria. We want you to tell us, call us some weeks and say, hey, that information I got from you has really helped my business. That is the idea. Let's go to Mr. Sholebo, who's virtual on the program. Don't forget, we're on 2 platforms, live and virtually. And I'll take that question about when you are starting off as a business, you have not made any sale. In fact, the idea is still in your head. You've not rented a shop. You've not bought any equipment, but you sort of need funding. How do you go about it? What record do you show to the bank? So you just kneel down and say, help me, Mr. Sholebo.
Okay. So every business starts with an idea, and equity providers always subscribe to an idea. But the first thing you need to have is an idea. So once you have the idea is in your mind, you now have to start to conceptualize the idea. You have to do what we call a business proposal. So you're starting out fresh. You need to document to a large extent the business proposal. And when you document the business proposal, this would include, but not limited to, the opportunity you see in the market, the financial projections of the market, the demand capacity of the market, and you have a financial projection for a period of time that can give the equity provider or the debt provider some level of comfort. So a business proposal is very, very important from the start point and get-go. In most cases, SMEs and small businesses find it difficult to draw up this business proposal. So you might need the help of a professional and or family members that have that kind of competence. So it's very important from the get-go to have this business proposal. Now, this business proposal will now dovetail into the amount of capital that you require for the business. Then, from the amount of capital you require for the business, you now determine, again with the help of professional, determine how much you can raise on your own as equity and how much you can raise as debt. So that's very important from the get-go to document what you have in the business proposal, because it is the idea, it is the document that the bank or any lender or equity provider will read to understand what is going on in your mind and how feasible the idea is. Thank you.
You made and debt. So really, there are different ways you can approach this. And if you can, drive that point home further, Mr. Jerry, about which one to choose, because for a lot of people, again, it's easier to approach a bank. They forget that, hey, you can actually raise funds from people around you. You can save to start a business. You can crowdfund. I think there are even cooperatives and different things you can actually go about. So which is good for which business? Which kind of funding is good? Because people are ambitious. It's good to be ambitious, but sometimes it's just isn't, I mean, it's not worth it really. So they always say start at your level. Okay, so tell us which of the fundings should be for which business. So take it, for example, a vulcanizer. What funding should I seek? A makeup artist. What funding should I seek? I want to go into food business. What funding should I seek? Help us understand.
Okay. It will depend on, like you said, it depends on the kind of business you're doing. The stage at which you are in the business. If you're starting a business and new, first, nothing on the books, nothing, just an idea, like you just said. Then you need equity.
Equity.
You need equity to start.
You heard that? Equity. Equity.
In
so
other
your
words,
money.
You have saved up money, family and friends. They could put up money for you.
Angels, right?
Angels, right. It helps. If it's a sophisticated business, depends on, and you can pitch your ideas with a business plan, like you just said, then you can pitch to professional investors, capital providers, who are venture capitalists. This is a new business. They are venture capitalists. They have the expertise. They can see through the business. They can provide certain guidance so that it succeeds. The idea is just good. Like I said, the value. If what you are proposing has the value that is sellable and scalable, then you're going to get investors who will come around and support your business. But on a very micro scale, yeah, it's always good to start with your savings, with family and friends, for a number of reasons. One of which is cost of funds. If you go to a bank to borrow money, the bank is not going to give you money without charges. Indeed. Now, you've not done this business, so you may have projections that indicate that your cash flow will be good, but all that is a forecast, right?
Let me pause you there. Pardon me. We're due for a break, but I am really enjoying this. I'm enjoying this conversation really, because all of a sudden it's easier. You can see the different ways you can get funds and choose whichever works for you. But you land on that point you were making, especially because you have experience. You know what banks are looking out for. So you give us more on that. We still have Mr. Jegbe with us and Mr. Shulebo joining us virtually. You're still listening to the Financial Literacy and Public Enlightenment Radio Show, brought to you by the Bankers Committee. We're due for a break now, and when we return, we'll continue on this conversation and take your calls and messages. So please stay with us.
Whether na cash or transfer, money na money. Once the other person don't collect transaction, this case close. Money na money. If cash not there to transfer, use ATM, USSD, POS, QR code. Reduce the naira. Money na money. Case close. Whether you dey buy yourself, money na money. Once the other person don't collect transaction, this case close. Central Bank of Nigeria don't announce change of currency. Make we nobody go. Whether you want pay or you collect money, different options will go. In case cash no day available, you fit use mobile app, internet banking, ATM, POS, USSD, QR code, e-Naira, and others. Then take do your transaction. And if you don't get bank account, visit your bank. Make them open up for you. Make you no panic. Last, all of us go day all right. This message now from Bankers Committee.
All right, thank you for staying with us. This is still the Financial Literacy and Public Enlightenment Radio Show, brought to you by the Bankers Committee. We're having a fantastic conversation, and it deals with the very heart of business growth, business success, and that is funding, finance, money, owo, ego, kudi. I could go on and on. They say money makes the world go round. Money also makes your business go round. And I have three gentlemen here with me. They've been giving us fantastic ideas, opening our eyes to where, how we can get funds, and from who, actually. Mr. Martin Ojegbe, Product Manager, Retail SME Keystone Bank, right here in our studio. Mr. Chukwemeka Ajere is the Head SME Polaris Bank Limited, also right here with us in the studio. And Mr. Abolore Shulebo is the Head Corporate Banking at Fidelity Bank PLC, joins us virtually this evening. Gentlemen, it's been fantastic having you on the show. And you know, as you were talking, it just hit me that there is actually money. I know you said there's money, but I didn't believe until you were breaking it down. You can get money from yourself, from your savings, from family and friends, from angel investors, and the rest. You can get from banks indeed. But let me let you land on that point you were making earlier on about accessing funds from your experience. So please go ahead.
Okay, like most businesses, there's something to always watch. Cost. So if you go to a bank to borrow money, there's a cost. There's an interest component to the repayment. So when you're starting, if you're starting a certain kind of business, you try to keep costs as low as possible. I mean, costs that may not directly impact on productivity. Okay, so if you're starting a business newly, keep your costs a little manageable. So if you can, where you can start, where most times you have to start, if you're just starting, you're most likely to start with your equity, which means your contribution or equity from investment
close to you.
Yes. So you can start. If you're starting at the micro level, start with your savings, start with family and friends, put it together, show some discipline in the way you run the money. Remember when I said we don't want to see your statement and see that most of the funds go to, non-business matters. It's actually very it actually matters in the micro level of analyzing your and put your money in the bank.
Very important.
Very important. You'll find that a lot of micro businesses don't put money in the bank. Put the money in the bank. It helps to build a record for you.
It doesn't have credit record?
Yes, your financial record. It helps. Those records come to play when your business is being evaluated for funding. If it's a business, you can put some money in the bank.
I know if you're selling, the more I save, the more I get messages from my bank that you are due for. Are you able to access this? Oh, interesting.
Put some money in the bank. When you sell, put it in the bank. Go take it out. Let there be a history that you're doing business. Okay, it helps at some point.
Did you hear that? Put your money in the bank. It actually helps. Aside the fact that the security, aside the fact that you are able to, sleep with your eyes closed. Unlike when it is under your bed, any little sound, if it's rat, you wake up. But keep it in the bank. It also helps you access funding. Fantastic point you made there. But as we were talking again, I know there's a school of thought. People think getting loans is a bad thing. There's that thinking that, no, I don't want to be indebted to anybody, or, the hand of the giver is on top, the hand of the receiver is on that. I don't know if it's a traditional thing, if it's a cultural thing, but there are people who think, don't collect loans. It is wrong, especially for business. I don't know if we can deal with that. But just before that, Mr. Jigbe, let me just give the numbers you can call or send us a message through if you've got questions on this all-important topic of positioning your business for finance, or at least for funding. 0810 608 1681. We'll be opening the phone lines very soon. 0810 608 1681 or 0818 202 5883. Again, 0818 202 5883. So, Mr. Ojegbe, I was asking that question and I'd like you to speak to it. Maybe there's someone who's listening to us and once a person heard collect money from bank, just, tuned up like, no, they told me not to collect loan. How does that work really? Is there anything to back that up that you can borrow money to do business? Is it wrong?
Okay, now this is where we come in as bankers, advisory. Okay, for people or startups or businesses who have started the business with what they have and they are running the business, there comes a point where you begin to see that you just can't meet up with certain things. Okay, you just have to push it up a bit. You just have to upscale a bit. Now, the point there now is when you decide to approach a bank, the bank has to review your records very well, see your kind of business structure, evaluate your strength, and to be able to advise you accordingly as to what you can get. Most businesses that come, okay, some of them want loans that are bigger than them. Okay, and so that's where we come and say, fine, take it a step at a time. Okay, let's try you with this. Okay, and let's see how you turn around and then recoup, and then we can give you more. So that's where the advisory part of it comes in as a bank. Okay, beyond just staying within your confines of what you have. So you see that definitely times also come to in your business environment where you have to seize opportunities. Okay, and how do you seize those opportunities if you don't have capital formation, if you don't have funds set aside for that? Remember, this is
sorry, you need to capital formation.
Okay, sorry. Funds set aside to seize certain opportunities.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Go for a sudden expansion. Okay. Remember, this is a startup. You necessarily may not have that now. So that's where you can definitely go to a bank. Okay, with that opportunity or with that need, okay, to expand at the right time. And then as a bank as well, we will not just give you what you want. We'll look at you, evaluate very well, look at your history, look at the strength of your business, and to advise you accordingly. Because we don't want to lend where we'll start running up and down looking for the money. It's better we give you, you come back, we give you, you come back, you know.
So banks are actually always happy to give out, you know, these funds, these loans, because a lot of people think, you know, banks that they want to hold on to that money. So you're saying that it is your joy, you derive joy from actually funding businesses.
Yeah, quality businesses.
Quality businesses. Yes. So that's why you're there.
Yeah. Because
some people might think, you know, banks are not for me. They don't want to give us. In fact, the way they give you stringent, you know, I had someone say, you know, let's go on. So essentially, that's the point. You are there to give funds to businesses. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Those calls are still coming in. So in the next few minutes, we'll take your calls, okay? In case you have questions about how to better position your business for funding, 0810 608-1681 or 0818-202-5883. I'll be taking your messages as well. Mr. Sholabo, I know you're still with us right there on the virtual space, and it's been quite an interesting conversation, but let's come back to how you need to package yourself well to ensure that your request, whatever you call it, sails through. You have sat on the other end receiving requests from businesses, seeing how they approach, you know, this issue of raising funds. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see people make, and you don't want our audience to make those same mistakes in the process of positioning their business for funding?
Okay. So there are a few mistakes that SMEs make. We see them, and they're teething problems, you know. Big businesses have gone through these cycles too before they become big blue chips. So one of the few things, and it's been extensively discussed here, is poor bookkeeping. Okay, so poor bookkeeping encompasses the financial record you keep in your own offices, as well as the financial record you keep with third parties, and this includes, you know, your bank statement. So when an SME approaches the bank for a loan, you ask, what are you worth? Okay, you either show me records, audited financial statements, invoices, receipts, and all of those things, or you show me a bank statement that evidences, you know, your historical financial strength. Another very thorny issue is default on previous loans, you know, and I think we need to start to talk about that. You know, what we said, the more you get and repay, the higher the loans you have access to. So we need to watch out on defaults on previous loans. Other things we look at is that how much do you have in the business that you saved in the business? Because, you know, you've been transacting for some time. So what equity levels do you have in the business? And like the other participant said, some of these businesses, you know, take out money for purposes other than, you know, the business. So we'll be looking out for that as well. Then there's a general description of poor management. Okay, management is very, very key. We want to see how you conceptualize strategies and how you execute and implement strategies in your business. And this also is closely linked to the corporate governance. The more we see that you're professionally run, the more, you know, we tend to want to do business with you. So that the common mistakes that company make, that we look out for and, you know, support them in overcoming them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to add to it, Mr. Jerry. What are some of those common mistakes you think, or you've seen businesses make, either at the starting point when they are still conceptualizing the idea, either when they want to expand, but essentially, what are those mistakes you've seen them make and you don't want our audience to make the same?
Don't overtrade.
Don't overtrade.
Yes.
Yes. What does that
um,
mean, please? I'm interested. Because I thought there's no limit to trading.
No. I'm trying to break it down.
Please do. Thank you.
Don't borrow more than you need. What's going to happen is that you're bearing a cost that the business cannot fund. In other words, you have idle assets that are not productive, or you have idle cash that are not, and you're paying for that cash, right?
Yeah.
So don't overtrade. It says something, I just want to put it in a different way. Integrity matters. Integrity is capital in business. At every stage in business, integrity. That's why when you talk of corporate governance, it also speaks to the integrity of the organization.
Right. So
integrity matters. Don't give a check when your account is not funded. By by regulatory rules alone.
That's a crime or what?
Yeah, that's a terrible crime. if we are looking at your bank statement and we see that you've got 1 or 2 return checks, by rule you can't get a loan in the next 5 years. Okay, preceding that, subsequently. So you don't abuse your integrity. It helps because character matters.
Absolutely.
It is the first thing we look at in determining suitability. So even if your ideas is good, your cash flow is good, if there's a character flaw in terms of your integrity, the likelihood that you're going to get financial support from the bank or even on the equity side, it will become a little tougher.
Character. Yes. You know, we used to hear this growing up, that you need to have good character. Who knew it was going to be standing in the way of people getting funded? All right, you're listening to the Financial Literacy Public Enlightenment Radio Show. I'm having an amazing time here with these gentlemen. You can also have that amazing time with us in terms of getting answers to your questions. I'm sorry I've not been taking calls, but we are now open for questions. 0810 608-1681. I'll take that again. 0810-608-1681 or 0818-202-5883. Again, 0818-202-5883. I've been accused of reading these things too fast, calling out the numbers too fast. So I don't want to fall short yet again. All right, so let's go on. Aside your cash flow, that's a very important document you need to present. I've heard different, documents being asked for your NEPA bill. Some go very ridiculous, really. They just ask for different kinds of documents. But I mean, you are operating in the corporate space. You are regulated. I know there are other ways people get loans these days. We're not speaking for them. We're speaking for the regulated ones, the right channels. What other documentation do you need aside your cash flow if you want to access funds?
Okay, I'll summarize it in 3 words. Know your customer. KYC.
KYC.
Yeah. So you talked of NEPA bill, it's part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, as an individual or as a business, the bank wants to know you a little bit better.
Okay.
We want to, like you said, integrity. We want to be sure what you say or who you say you are is actually who you say you are. What you say you're doing is what you're saying you're doing. So in a nutshell, it's KYC. It speaks to the integrity, it speaks to the trust. I mean, at the first points of engagement, when you are presenting yourself and what you are telling us is not actually correct, how can we decide to take it up or upscale that trust?
So you're not being too excessive by asking for a NEPA bill these days. It's for a reason, to know your customer, to ensure that you are who you say you are, your address is where it is. But these days, people don't have, it's not even NEPA anymore. How do you go about it now? Do you get a receipt for their discos, or you still go with NEPA bills?
No, there are other forms of address verification documents.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not stringent to the utility to NEPA bill. Okay, then you also have your waste bill. Okay, you have your water bill for people who still run with water corporations. Okay, and then
I'm sorry, pardon me. We have a caller. I have been missing this call. So let's take this call, then we'll continue on that conversation. Good evening. Thank you for joining us on the program. What's your name and where are you calling from? Hi, Gideon. Good evening. Where is that? What state are you calling from? Oh, from Kaduna State. Oh, it's great to have you on the show. How is the Northwest today? All right, go ahead. What's your question?
Yeah, my question is in a business that I want to start, and I know that I'll surely succeed on it. But maybe if I want to borrow money from either from a bank or from relatives, from any other person I know that can be able to assist me to start off the business. But the thing is not to believe me that if actually I'll be successful in a business that I can return their money back to them. And I find it so difficult to convince them that okay, business actually is going to work out for good. And this is what I'm going to gain at the end of time. And but they say not to believe me. And I find it so difficult. And how will I do? How will I go with it?
That's a very, very valid question. I think a lot of people actually face this. Thank you so much for that question. We'll get answers to it for you, definitely. I don't know who wants to take up that question. You have people around you. I mean, we've said that you don't have to start big. You can look out for people around you, but those people don't quite believe in you. Maybe it's the finish. Maybe it's just them not believing you outright because they're like, I mean, I know this person. I don't believe in the business. What should he do? And I'm glad that this is a real life example. I don't know any takers.
Okay. He has a business idea.
Yeah.
He's not done it before. Okay. If the caller realizes, Gideon, right?
Yeah.
He will know that businesses fail. It's a reality that businesses fail. Nobody puts money where it's going to be lost, right? So if the reality is that businesses fail, no matter how good his ideas may be, the possibility that it could fail is there, right? So the first skin in the game has to be his.
Okay. So Gideon, I hope you're listening.
I don't know what business he's talking about, but he needs to put some money in that business. And he should be able to convince people around him to support that business. Right? If the business is that sophisticated, somewhat sophisticated, and is able to draw up a business plan and all that, he may be able to approach some of the development banks, government-funded banks, and be able to get some money. But even then, there's just nothing to evaluate. There are many factors that make businesses fail. Some of those factors are extraneous to the business. Okay? For instance, you have this idea that you could do a farm, right?
Right.
Which is great. And the crop is something that is well in demand. So it looks to you straight up, this is a very profitable business, right? But we know that things do happen. Flood could just come and wipe half your farm away.
Right.
Now, if the bank has put money in that business, then there's no repayment source. Okay? So those are the issues. Those are for commercial banks, for most banks, the money you're lending, it's good that people understand this, that the money that banks lend out are other people's money. Okay? Now, nobody wants to go to the bank.
And then you ask for your money.
I ask for money. We say, we gave your money to Gideon and he couldn't pay back because it was flood. It's not that he did anything wrong. You get what I mean? Okay. That's not going to happen, right? So it's also important that banks are prudent with people's money.
Okay. Let me hold you there. Pardon me. I also come to you, Mr. J, but you were making a point about other documents. But for Mr. Sholebo, there's this other question about, and it's interesting. People are talking about farming now. Someone believes that it looks like banks need to better understand the farm business before supporting it. He believes that bankers and farmers are two strange birds. I'd like you to perhaps debunk that, because we know that farming is big in Nigeria, and if there's anything to go by, it looks like it will even be bigger, judging from the position of this government. So is there really that in reality? Because he says that banks need interface between them and farmers if they must do good business. So is that available? What do you have to say to that message, Mr. Sholebo?
Okay. Yeah. So the entire financial financial industry has been trying to crack the agribusiness, okay? And the agribusiness is a massive business. We all have to eat, so there's a case for agribusiness, to start with. So we've been trying to crack that market, and you've seen a lot of interventions, even from the regulator, which is the CBN, to try and crack this sector. Again, the crowdfunding ecosystem has also, lent a lot of money to the agribusiness. I think we're not there yet because of the way agri is structured in Nigeria, in the sense that they are small-time farmers as opposed to the big and mechanized farmers. So rallying around all of these small farmers is a bit of a challenge for financial institutions. But what we're doing is to have product programs that we're using to intervene. You have the fertilizer program, you have NISA, you have a lot of intervention programs trying to bring, funding and solution to the agri problem. We're not on two parallel lines here, for the simple reason that, agri contributes the highest to our GDP. And so it's not an industry that I want to neglect. Even with the current government's plans for agri, you will see a lot of financial institutions coming on wholesale to start with, then gradually going to the small-time farmers to support them. So it's something that we've been trying to crack, something that we're working on, and even at this regulator level, they've had intervention in the past for agri. So my advice to farmers is to continue to organize themselves so that it can be easy for them to access finance. And one ecosystem that I really recommend is the crowdfunding ecosystem, who provide extensive finance to this agribusiness. So sooner or later, the commercial banks too will join, and every other alternative finance group. Thank you.
Mr. I hope that has answered the question. Partly. By the way, this continues next week as we wind down. This conversation continues next week. There are lots of questions that are waiting. We'll get to answer them as we wind up. But I'd like Mr. Ojegbe to wind down on his point, the point he was making about audit documentation. We'll go heavy on the different sectors and how what is available and how to approach the funding next week. But let's wind down with your point, Mr. Ojegbe. What other documentations do we need? So let's prepare our minds as we come back next week on this one.
Okay, that's fine. Now, you would agree with me that there are lots of businesses that are informal. They haven't been structured well enough to be registered in the Corporate Affairs Commission. And so as banks, if you want to get the best out of us, we feel more comfortable dealing with businesses that have a form of structure, regardless of how long you've been in the business. So we'd always advise, take out time, register your business, even if it's a startup. You don't necessarily need to register it as a limited liability company.
Just a business name.
Just a business name. Yeah. Give it some form of structure. Have a bank account with that.
Even if you're a farmer,
okay, exactly. And then we'll take it up from there.
You know what? This conversation is literally endless, but I'm glad we're scratching the surface. I mean, the kinds of funding available, where to go to, the kind of documentations you need. But believe me, we are just getting started on this conversation around funding. Because don't forget, there's the agricultural sector, big one. There's the tech industry as well. It's a big one. Entrepreneurs, people that are into, crafts, businesses that even manufacturing, small scale. So there are different sectors. We'll get into it, but we have to wind down right now. I can see lots of questions and calls coming in. Not to worry, for those who have sent in their questions, I can see them. We'll take them next week. Do not worry about that. We'll take them next week. Same time, same station by 5 p.m. every Monday for the next 13 weeks. We are here for you. So not to worry, there's a lot to take away from today's conversation. And in case you're just joining us, you can listen again on social media. Just head over to smegrowth.ng and you can watch this again on YouTube. We are good like that. We are here for you. I'd like to thank you so much, our guest, Mr. Abolore Sholebo, the head corporate banking, Fidelity Bank PLC, joins us virtually this evening. Mr. Martin Ojegbe, who's the product manager, retail and SME at Keystone Bank. Thank you so much. As well as Mr. Chukwemeka Ajere, who's the head SME Polaris Bank Limited. Thank you so much for your time as well. These gentlemen have taken time out of their busy schedules to speak to us about growing our businesses. But I'd like to also thank the production crew right here. Bolale Woyemi, Director FRC and Lagos Operatives, or rather Operations. Mara Owoma is a producer, and the fantastic engineering team, Olatunde Latif, Daniel Koye, Real Oladejo, Oladikuko, Lauren Toba, and Idowu Eusebio. Thank you so much. I mean, teamwork makes the dream work, right? Until next time, when I come back with more profitable tips, I remain Kayode Okikiolu. Don't forget to keep making profit for your good and for the good of our nation. God bless Nigeria.